First and foremost, thank you guys for coming through and for just joining the Instagram live. I just really wanted to create a space for Black folks to just process. I know that I have all the thoughts going through my mind. And I'm sure that if we could just have one giant processing session, that in itself would help us get through on a day-to-day basis. So I hadn't seen anybody on here that I have to say this to, but just as we move forward, in case anybody hops on and wants to say anything, slick or fly, please respect the space. Everybody is welcome, but right now we're centering the feelings, thoughts, and emotions of African Americans because we primarily are the ones dealing with the trauma. Hey Wendy, I see you, sis. So be kind. Think before you speak. That's what my grandmama used to tell me. Think before you post is what you have to say out of a place of coming from a place of love or coming from a place of your opinion. If it's not gonna land well on someone, then fall back. But all are welcome, and I'm glad all of you guys are here. I pinned the question, sisters, how y'all feel? Because this week I really just want to focus on Black women. I wanted to create as much of a safe space as I could for us to just brain dump, get some things off our chest, to process, to reflect. And so I'm just gonna talk, and share some of the thoughts that I have. A couple of you guys that are on here, we've had some of you non-African American guys, we and ladies, we've had some brief conversations, so you guys probably already have a general idea. But just to put words to some of how the recent events have left me feeling, I thought it would be a good thing to create the space. So I guess I'll just kind of kick it off, and the question is out there for you guys to jump in and say however you feel. If any of you guys want to jump on here with me and chop it up for a few minutes, send a request. As long as you're respectful and you're coming from a place of love, we can chop it up. But for me, I think that my reality is, for a really long time, I have been just kind of in a perpetual state of lamenting. And I go in and out of having hope and not having very much hope. If I'm honest, the more that I learn, the more that I unlearn the history that we're taught in school, and I started to relearn actual history. Processing those realities in real time can be really heavy just on an everyday basis, because so many things that we experience as African Americans, and I'm gonna speak specifically to the African American woman experience, so many of the things that we experience on an everyday basis are rooted in and stem from slavery, just to be frank. And a lot of the systemic injustice and cultural norms, if you will, that we experience in America have a film of white supremacy on it, and we don't even know it. We don't even realize it. Just an example. I was at a youth conference a few months back, and this young lady came up to me and was just asking me how to feel, what to do, because she's in a situation where she is in a predominantly white space and she speaks really good. Hey, Eliz, I see you, sis. She was in a space where she was one of a handful of black kids, and she spoke really proper English. And anytime that she would hang around other black kids, they would tease her and tell her that she talked white. And then when she would hang around her white friends, they would tell her that she is the least black girl they know. So on one end, she didn't fit in because she didn't speak with a slang or Ebonics type dialect. And then on the other end, she was having her blackness defined by non-black people. And I almost wanted to just weep for her, because that in itself, carrying that type of burden from childhood all the way up into adulthood, is a lot. And if you are not dealing with people who are conscious enough or aware enough to understand that both groups of people, both groups of friends were wrong in the way that they were coming at her, like, how you respond or how you give her advice could either send her on a trajectory of success or depression. Because just at that formative age, to be wrestling with your identity or having your blackness come into question just because you speak proper English, if you backtrack it far enough, stems from slavery. And so I think that a lot of times, I'm a Christian, I'm a believer, so a lot of times our white brothers and sisters have no clue all the little bitty things like that we are carrying and have been carrying and have been navigating through since childhood. As adults, we are still carrying those things. And I think a lot of times, us as black folks, we are just used to enduring. You know, it's almost like the unspoken understanding that it is our plight to have to endure to some degree is a reality that I don't think we even acknowledge often, or at least not often enough. And I think that in instances like what's happening with the current events now, every once in a while, it's like it's the perfect storm. And a lot of us are already traumatized and already 2 seconds from going off because we are carrying all of these things, all of these little bitty microaggressions on a regular basis. And it's a lot, and it's enough to send you into a depression. It's enough to take you all kinds of different mental and emotional places and spaces. So, you know, for me, I just wanted to come and create a space just to process some of that stuff, to give insight and perspective to my non-black brothers and sisters, and, you know, specifically for the ladies tonight. I just want to center and put our voice in the center of what's going on. And so, like, throughout tonight, I just want to invite you guys, DM me questions, DM me thoughts, DM me anything that you want to, if you want me to speak on it, if you want to speak on it. For the next 3 evenings, we're just going to create the space to process, create the space to reflect, and just have a dialogue, man. I think it's important to just put voice to how people are feeling. And right now, social media is like on fire. Like, everybody is saying all the things. And I just wanted to create a space specifically for African Americans to say how they feel. It's a quote that James Baldwin has that I think is so profound and is so accurate. I just want to share that with you guys because I think it puts words to exactly how I feel and exactly how I've been feeling for several years now. He says that to be a Negro in this country and to be relatively conscious is to be in a rage almost all the time. So if I'm frank, if I keep it 100 with you guys, you know, the question on the table is like, who are you becoming? And for those of you guys that didn't know, I just dropped a single the same week that George Floyd was murdered, and it started off being a song that really was about celebrating the small victories, you know, as you transform, as you are walking out. Hey, appreciate it. Yeah, we chasing freedom around here. I appreciate that, sexy brown legs. The intent of the song was just to celebrate the small victories along the way. You know, for me, just even thinking about the process of becoming a woman, going from a girl to a woman, or the process of sanctification, the sanctification process, like becoming more like Christ every day. You know, the process of hitting weight goals or getting your education, whatever your process is that whatever you are aiming to become. Like, sometimes you have to pause and celebrate the small victories along the way. So that's what that song originally was for and about. And I think it still has its place, but I realized that the climate, celebrating was not the season that we find ourselves in. And so, you know, it was laid on my heart to really still take that same topic of becoming and flip it a little bit and just ask the question, like, you know, LT, who are you becoming, you know, as a result of racial trauma? Who are you becoming as a result of constantly seeing Black death on display for the world to see? How are you internalizing that? What is that doing in your heart? What is that doing in your mind? What is that doing to the people around you? Like, who are we becoming? And so I wanted to pause the celebrating. You know, we'll get back to that another day. Hopefully, you know, if enough of us come together and put the work in that needs to be done, then we will actually have something to celebrate. You know, but right now I just want to focus on that question, because I think it's an important question to be had, to examine yourself. Saran, I see you, sis. What's good? So just to be frank, just to lay it out there, just to put voice to what I'm sure a lot of us are feeling, I am and have become both angry and depressed. I think that I combat anger on a pretty regular basis, you know, of just all the things that there are to realize, and what it is just to understand what it means to be Black, you know, not just in America, but definitely in America. Like, I'm angry, you know, and I think that my anger is a righteous anger. I fight depression because sometimes I feel like, where's the actual real progress? I think that a lot of times we see surface level progress and things that, you know, yeah, they're different from how they were during the slavery era, or yeah, they're different from the civil rights era, and there's this slow change. But, you know, when you talk to little kids and they understand it from day one, you know, these basic elementary principles that for whatever reason we as a country, we as adults can't understand, that can get frustrating after a while. All right, I see a question here. It says, do you feel like one shapes their environment, or they are shaped by their environment? Risha, what's up, sis? That's an interesting question, and I feel like I want to say both. Because on one hand, Um, if you are in an environment that gives you the tools and the resources for you to understand self and understand purpose and understand what to do with that information and that knowledge, then what potentially will come back, or what you will contribute to your environment, is what was put into your environment. And I don't think on the flip side, Remy Joy, hey babe, yeah, both, Seren, I agree. And on the flip side, you know, when you don't have resources and your mindset is shaped by what you're seeing on TV and the agenda of those that are putting things on TV, then likely that's the output that you're going to give out. So I would say both, sis. So real quick, I'm going to recap the question on the table. Hope you guys can see it there. Is sisters, how y'all feel? This space is primarily for us to just process and say all the things and get what's on your chest off. I will put another reminder out there. Let's keep it about love and respect. Please keep the slick talk to a minimum and just respect the space. Yeah, good point. Good point. Light, I see what you're saying. And, you know, she's saying that she thinks that the latter part of the question happens first by default. Agreed. You know, so yeah, I mean, I think that it can be both. And I think that fatigue comes into play a lot of times for African Americans, because psychologically there are so many things that we are dealing with, and that we are processing, and that we are giving to God, and that we're sitting with, and that weigh on us. I think that trauma, that PTSD, that, I don't know if you guys have done any reading on epigenetics, but just pain and anguish and frustration being passed down from generation to generation. You know, I'll give you guys an example. So when I was a little girl, I loved being around my grandmother, and I would just study her. Like she was a beautiful person, entrepreneur, jazzy as they come. And hey Toya, I see you, sis. PTSD, huh? That part, huh? Like, sheesh. And a lot of times we don't even know that we're dealing with it. A lot of times we don't even know how to recognize it or point it out. But anyway, what I was saying was, like, my grandmother, man, she was this amazing woman, and she was a grinder, and she was a multitasker, and she was taking care of her kids and running a business and holding down a household by herself and fleeing away from domestic abuse and abusive situations. And she was a woman of God. Does that sound familiar? It probably sounds to most in most parts like most of the black women on this IG live. But she had this like perpetual frown on her face all the time. I would study her, and she just had this frown on her face, even when it was a positive moment happening, even when things were going well in that space or season or whatever it was. She always had a frown on her. She always had a frown even when things were good, you know, as much as I could understand it from my little kid brain. But now that I am an adult, I understand. You know, and I think we as little black girls watch our moms, and we watch our aunties, and we watch our grandmothers, and we absorb that pain that's passed down. And I think with every generation that comes down, there are resources available to that following generation that maybe weren't available to the previous generation to have something to do with that pain that's passed down. But it doesn't change the fact that it's there, and it doesn't change the fact that a lot of us are looking for the right words to put to that pain. And I think PTSD is definitely something that a lot of us are dealing with, even if it's on a minor scale or a major scale. Like, I personally could not watch the George Floyd video because I was already tapped out. And to be honest, scared of what would happen to me psychologically if I watched that video. So many unarmed black men and women have been killed, and I think that I personally fight the temptation to just become numb. I refuse to let Black death become normal. You know what I mean? Like we live in this era of hashtags. And if we're not careful, and if we're not mindful of ourselves, if we're not mindful of our feelings, if we're not mindful to be self-aware, we can find ourselves desensitized. And I think that that's a trick of the enemy. We have to let ourselves feel. We have to, like, for me, like, I try to be intentional with things like Amber Alerts. I think about all the little kids in my life and how much I would be absolutely freaking out if they were missing, or even my friends' kids or kids close to me. I try to treat, the Bible says to mourn with those who mourn and rejoice with those who rejoice. So I try to be intentional to do that because I don't want to be desensitized to Black death. I just wanted to stop and look at some of the stuff that you guys are saying. Toya, I feel you, sis. I feel like sometimes being numb is just a way to preserve, like it's self-preservation. Because the reality is most Black women, regardless of how you feel, regardless of what happened the day before, the night before, regardless of the space that you're in, you still got to get up and go to work the next morning. You still have to get up and tend to the kids, or tend to your husband, or tend to your parents if you're their caregiver, or whatever thing is strapped on your back. You still have to get up and tend to that. And so I think a lot of times just becoming numb is a way to preserve and not lose it. I think that it's so much, man. Like, I'm looking at Rebecca. It says, yeah, I feel you, how it's like it's normalized to see it, but it still breaks your heart. I feel that. Toya, I know. That's why I created the space. It's because it's just like, I don't know. I just feel like God put it on my heart. Like, I am not the only one thinking these things. I am not the only one wrestling with this stuff. I am not the only one that needs to hear that I'm not the only one. You know what I mean? Yeah, so bitterness is something that I'm wrestling with right now. Just becoming cynical to everything, and in particular, just the way things are. I feel like we know better, so it's time to do better. And so to just continue to wait for this slow turning ship. D'Angelo, what's up, bro? I see you. I feel like, nah, I'm tired of waiting. Like our ancestors fought for us to have something different. So what are we waiting for? Why are we waiting? And at the same time, I know patience is a virtue, but I just feel like we know better. So let's do better. You know, like oh man, there's so many things I want to say to y'all. And to be honest, I'm wrestling with how real to be. But I will say this, like, I don't think that we should just be okay with the status quo. I don't think that we should continue to be okay with white people being comfortable and black folks being traumatized, and that's just the way things are. Nah, like I feel like everybody needs to be uncomfortable. You know, I feel like we all need to be uncomfortable until we can figure out how to tear down these systems of oppression that have existed since we got here, and reestablish something that is based on actual equality. I'll give you an example, man. My little bro, he just graduated from high school, and you know, these last couple of years have really been beautiful and challenging at the same time, because he's developing. He is, you know, becoming a young man, and he's already been through a lot of really challenging things. And you know, recently we had to sit down and have the talk with him about what it means for him being a teenage black boy in America, and the things that he has to be mindful of, and the reality that there are privileges that his friends, you know, have that he doesn't have because he's black. And so he's just turned 18. By the time he was 18, he'd already been called a nigger. He'd already been racially profiled by the police. And just recently, you know, the other night he graduated, and he came home, and he was just, in his excitement, he said this thing in passing, and it broke my heart, man. I really wanted to weep, but because he was saying it from a place of joy, I suppressed that moment of pain and sadness for his sake. What I just said in itself is a whole thing that we do all the time. But anyway, he said, you know, we had just, you know, got done walking off the stage, and we were in the parking lot, and everybody was just really excited, and we were like gassing each other up, and it's like, we did it, yeah. And he said, in the interim of that, I realized that I probably need to calm down, because I don't want to get so rowdy in my celebrating that I attract attention to myself, because there are police officers on the premises who may take my being rowdy as me starting trouble because of everything else that's going on right now in this country. And so literally in that moment, it was like he had to suppress his natural inclination to celebrate and be loud and be boisterous and be his full authentic African self for the sake of not drawing the wrong kind of attention to himself. I just want to sit with that for a minute. Like he couldn't even celebrate his own graduation fully, without the fear of really what's white supremacy just lingering over him. So, I mean, I think, when you think about all of these little bitty things that we deal with on a regular basis, it's enough to make you just want to tap out. And I'll be honest with you guys, some days I just go on autopilot just to make it through the day, just to successfully handle my business and handle my responsibilities without losing it or just completely going off on someone. Let's see what you say. Like, I think the only way we can really change it, band-aid it enough until heaven is to be all we are called to be. I refuse to stop being who I'm supposed to be, even in the midst of races. Say that, sis. Say that. But yeah, man, it's a thing. Like you who is C Danny, I think I said that name. I don't know. 7. But yeah, suppressing joy is a real thing. It's a real thing. And it's just like, my little brother had to make what was like a life decision of whether or not he was just gonna express joy. I don't even know, what do you do with that other than give it to God? Like that, I can't meditate on those realities for too long, because it will take me to a place that I'm not supposed to be in, So yeah, I think that these feelings and these emotions are real, and they are always with us to some degree. They don't go anywhere. I think that really what we're dealing with is just trauma. Really, a lot of what we're seeing with the riots is trauma. When you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, like Fannie Lou Hamer told us, like what else is there for you to do? Wow, sis, you changed the way you drive home in the dark just because you saw too many cops. I get it. And I think that what's unfortunate is you have police officers. I know some. I'm friends with some who are genuinely great people, and they genuinely want to protect and serve. And so I don't even know. That's a whole other thing that I don't feel like I'm equipped to even talk about is what to do with the police force. I think that, there has to just be reform, and there has to be laws put in place that hold police officers to a higher level of accountability. And I think that policing the police is probably going to have to become a part of a new norm, a part of the culture. And that's what we're seeing. So, I mean, God bless the ones who mean well, and I pray the Lord expose the ones who don't, straight up and down. So I'm gonna circle back because I see a few more people jumping in. Sisters, how y'all feel? I wanted to create this space just for you guys to sound off. Tomorrow and Thursday, I will be having a special guest join me on here, Miss Dula Prevalon. I hope I said your name right, sis, but she is a licensed counselor, pastor, life coach, and she is going to be on here joining me for the next 2 days just to talk through all the things and to give us some insight, give us some tools that we can use to just keep on keeping on, you know. And so that is my offering to you guys and to whoever watches this video, specifically Black women. I'm talking to you. I love you. I love us. I see you, sis. I understand. Hey, sis, you still there? Tomorrow we're going to be talking about all the things. I'm looking forward to it. And this is just, you know, a love offering to you to hopefully be some sort of balm to your soul in the midst of all that's going on. Know that you're in my heart with every post, with all the music that I make. I realized as a Black woman, and the more that I mature, the more that I develop, the more that I evolve, the longer that I continue to hold on to God's unchanging hand, as my grandmama told me. I realized that I have a responsibility with my art, man, and there's a need. Good, Toya. Stay with us all 3 days, sis. It's God's timing is perfect, so I'm hoping that you'll be able to get some encouragement from the dialogue, and I know Miss Dula is going to give us some great things tomorrow. But yeah, man, I just feel like I have a responsibility with my art, to be honest, to be a truth teller, to bring voice to the experiences of my own life, the people around me, and to inform those who may have a different life experience of what it's like to be a Black woman who is a follower of Jesus, you know? So, yeah. I think one of the ladies asked earlier, like, how do we continue becoming? So for me, the answer to that question, first and foremost, is to align yourself with your creator, with our creator, you know, and really slow down to reflect on who you are, why you're here, what is your purpose. Because white supremacy aside, there's a reason that we exist. There's a reason, there's work that we all have to do. There's a purpose for us living and breathing and waking up every day. And I think that for Black Christians and for white Christians, the spiritual reality that is white supremacy is it remains to help us choose what we need to choose for the sake of sanctification. So what I mean by that is, like, for the Black Christian, all the stuff that we just talked about, that I just kind of put out there, and the things that everybody is saying on here, those are hardships. Those are areas where we have to choose to cling to Christ in spite of. Those are things that are shaping and molding us to look more like our Savior. Those are things that are sanctifying us. That is persecution, you know. And I think for you know, my non-black brothers and sisters in Christ to make the choice to lay down your privilege, or to leverage your privilege, or to call out by name specifically white supremacy in all its shapes and forms, is part of your sanctification process. To push back against that very spirit that wants to offer you comfort and the feeling and the mindset that you are better than another human being that is made in the image of God, is part of your sanctification process, you know? And so I think we all have a role to play. We all have things to do. Sexy brown legs. I see your question about how do you lay down a privilege. I think the perfect example of that is to look at the person and work of Jesus. If ever there was anyone who ever laid down their privilege, it was him, you know. And he went from, you know, being at the right hand of God. He went from, you know, being in heaven and being in that ethereal kind of place to coming down and like lowering himself to the level of a human being, confined to what it is to be human. And he allowed himself to be crucified on a tree when he had legions of angels at his command. But he did those things for the sake of you and I, that if we put our trust in him, we would have eternal life. That is the ultimate example of laying down your privilege. And I think for white brothers and sisters, if you're asking, how do I lay down my privilege? There is an amazing woman of God named Latasha Morrison. Look her up. And she has this organization called Be the Bridge. Look her up on Instagram. I think it's Be a Bridge Builder. All the resources that one would need to understand whiteness better, to understand what to do with these realities as you are a white person that might be waking up to them. Latasha, sis. But yeah, look her up. All of the information that you would need, she literally has like classes that you can take, you know, on all of those things. But yeah, man, I want to create space for anyone else on here that kind of just wants to sound off how you feel, what's on your chest, what are you processing. I think that one of the things that I am wrestling with just day-to-day life is, what is the difference, between being polite and being Christ-like and succumbing to white supremacy. Because I think that as a black woman, those lines can blur, and that can get kind of tricky depending on the situation. And so for me, that's one of the things that I'm wrestling with is where is the line between just being polite, you know, that space, being Christ-like, because sometimes being Christ-like can translate to some people as not being polite. And then where is that line between being polite and being Christ-like and succumbing to white supremacy? Because I wrestle with some of the circumstances and situations that we call service and serving our brothers and sisters. I wrestle with where the line is with serving from a place of my Christian duty and succumbing to white supremacy because we are subliminally expected to serve in different capacities. I don't know if that's too deep of a statement, but maybe somebody else out there might understand what I'm saying. But that's something that I'm wrestling with. And you know, I wanted to create this space for us to just process. I ain't got all the answers. I'm not claiming to have all the answers. I think for me, I'm learning that sometimes it is helpful and healing to a certain degree to hear another black woman or another black person speak truth to what is our shared reality, because it makes me feel like I'm not alone. You know, it makes me feel like I'm not the only person that's feeling like this. I'm not the only person that is wrestling with these specific things. you know. So those are the reasons for this space. And I know that it's an ever going process, and we are all in different spaces on our journey. We're all in different spaces in becoming who it is that we're supposed to be. And I think that I just want to encourage Black women, specifically Black people in general, keep becoming, sis. Keep moving towards that thing that is on the inside of you to be and to become and to evolve into. So many women that are on this live right now are already in process, and I just want to encourage you to keep going. I want to encourage you to make sure that you are being intentional to take on self-care, whatever that means for you in this season. I think there's all kinds of things that you can do to bring yourself peace, even if it's in little spurts, even if it's just in little pockets or even in little bubbles. Examine the things that bring you joy and bring life, give you life, and tap into those things. Every post on social media doesn't have to be about social injustice and racial trauma and all of the things that we pay attention to and know and are living with on an everyday basis. Sometimes, you got to step away. Sometimes you have to give yourself permission to tap out and to be gentle with yourself. So I'll be transparent with you guys. For me, I actually have been in counseling. I've been doing therapy for the last several months, and unfortunately, a good portion of what pushed me into going ahead and taking that opportunity was at the hands of racial trauma within the context of the church, within the context of Christianity. And I know that I'm more self-aware. Liz, what's up, sis? I am more self-aware. That the phrase and the concept of chasing freedom has become even more real to me as a result of finding a counselor that understood what I needed and how to engage me, and finding one who was conscious enough to the realities of what we deal with on a regular basis as Black women. She was conscious enough for me to not have to try to explain and convince her that those are realities. She's phenomenal. And if she allows me, I'm still trying to convince her, but if she allows me, I definitely will shout her out. But hey, Toya, I know it's hard to find, sis, but I have a couple that I can point you to. Hit me up. I have a couple that I can point you to. Sexy Brown Legs, yes, sis. Chasing freedom, man. We have to find it. We have to choose to fight for it by any means necessary. We have to choose what we are and what we are not gonna let stress us out. It's a choice, And I think sometimes you have to you have to resist certain things that are considered normal, or certain mindsets or certain beliefs that are considered normal but are actually oppressive for us. You have to resist those things in order to actually claim your freedom, Yeah, man. So self-care, ladies, is something that I definitely encourage you to do in this time. Get somewhere and take a nap. I don't know if you guys have heard of nap ministry, but that's actually a thing, man. Go look them up. I don't know. I just want to be cognizant of everybody's time, but definitely I'm here as long as y'all are here. But holla at me. Let me know how you feel. Let me know what you're going through. Toya, I see you. I've recently found that I do suffer from PTSD. Yep. And that's the thing. We only think our military and armed forces suffer. Yep. It's a real thing, sis. It's a real thing. And I'm hoping tomorrow that Dula will be able to kind of unpack that for us a little bit more so that we can learn how to identify it. You know, and that and we can know what are just some basic things that we can do to, like, what is the next step? Becca, you stupid. Nap ministry is a thing. I need to tap into nap ministry because I suck at taking naps. But yeah, I'm hoping that Dula can help us, you know, just claim some tools that will be helpful with PTSD and with trauma in general. You know, I think it's a traumatic thing to low key, it's a traumatic thing to be black in this land, just that by itself. Like I don't think that we give ourselves permission. We typically don't have a tendency to give ourselves permission to acknowledge trauma. We just keep going because that's what we do as a people. That's what we've always done. You strap it on your back and you keep going. And you keep going and you keep going and you keep going until you break down or you have a stroke or your blood pressure is high or you got, you know, all of these conditions because culturally we typically don't give ourselves permission to feel how we feel. A lot of times we don't have words for how we feel. Just looking at what Light said, what's crazy is when I find freedom, we have to choose to receive it. Yeah, man. Sometimes we choose wilderness over the promised land because of the level of trust needed. Guilty. That's why you my big sis. If y'all don't know, I Shine Now, aka Lady Light. That's my spiritual big sister. And she be bopping me upside my head on a regular basis. But no, that's real talk, you know. Sometimes freedom requires trusting God. And yeah, if any of y'all are control freaks like me, sometimes that's easier said than done, man. But we got to do it. Yeah, ladies. I think I'm getting ready to sign off here. But tomorrow, same time, I'll be back with my sis Dula, and we will be discussing, you know, just part 2 of this thing. She's gonna come on, and I'm going to have a few questions for her. Don't forget to DM me any questions, thoughts that you guys kind of want us to touch on or talk about tomorrow, and we'll be back for another segment. I love y'all. Thanks for sitting in with your girl. Hey, large chocolate shake, we getting ready to wrap up, but this week is about the ladies. Next week it'll be all about the fellas. So I just want to create some space, do a heart check for my people, offer some perspective from licensed counselors just to give us some tools to deal with all the things. So I want to make sure that I'm not forgetting anything. I don't think so. Let me see. Nah, I think we're good. I think that just as our ancestors always have, we will continue to just keep on keeping on. That is something that I draw from often, is just the knowledge that those that came before us went through way worse, and they still survived, and they still found a way to be and do amazing things. So keep that in your back pocket, because I definitely keep it in mind. Lord willing, I'll see y'all tomorrow night. God bless you.